including A1 Radio Bogatanga, Radio Max in Takrady, and Kakeli Radio in Ho. It's on ABN Radio in London and around the world at myjoyonline.com. The news is brought to you by UMB Bank, UMB Speed App, Digibank, Let's Go, and Teleso 4G, just a touch in this edition. Black Tuesday, families of 34 people whose lives came to a crashing halt following a head-on collision on the Cape Coast Takrady Road cry out in anguish.
When we got to this sharp curve, the oncoming vehicle did overtaking, and then our driver tried swerving him, but rather he drove into our direction and then hit him.
With many more injured, we'll get the latest as more families rush the hospital to identify their relatives. Founder of UT Bank arrested as government begins prosecution of personalities fingered in the banking sector crisis.
We have begun bringing those responsible for the banking crisis to justice. We have one case in court, then the perpetrators of the crisis, i.e. both regulators and individuals, will face justice soon.
We have details. Also, shops of foreign traders to remain under lock and key after owners failed to produce documents in verification and assessment exercise being carried out by the Ghana Revenue Authority today.
Of course, they have to come through the committee. Then we see if we have to open the shops for them. Then we open. So if you don't come and bring your documents, how do we open for you?
We'll bring you a live update. And in sports,
former Ghana international CK Akono said to be appointed new coach of the senior national team, the Black Stars.
Please stay with me. We have details and more here on the Midday News. I am Emefa Apawu. The sound of a family member wailing after hearing news of the death of a relative who was among scores crashed to death in an early morning accident. The death toll is now 34 in the Dampoasi accident, which happened as dawn on the Elmina Commander Road following a head-on collision between two Yutong buses. Dozens of victims are also battling for their lives at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. Here's an eyewitness account.
I was on board a vehicle from Takrady to Accra. When we got to this sharp curve, the oncoming vehicle did overtaking, and then our driver tried swerving him, but rather he drove into our direction and then hit him.
How many people were in your bus?
54, to be precise.
And where are they now?
Most of them has been taken to the hospital.
But were there people you saw dead in the vehicle that you were traveling on?
Both vehicles. I was part of those who I started with the rescue. And I called National Fire Service and then the police service. So they came and met me trying to save lives before they even came in.
What would you blame this accident for, you being an occupant of this vehicle?
Street lights is one. And the other side is, driving, you don't overtake in a curve. Knowing fully well that you are approaching a curve, you are not supposed to overtake. Myself, I'm a driver. So it was the fault from the other driver, the Hyundai bus driver, not ours. He did his best to save the situation, but it's bound to happen.
An eyewitness account there. Central Region correspondent Richard Kojonyako has been on the beat all morning and joins us from the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. Richard, 34 lives lost so far. How many injuries, and has the figure changed?
Well, so there are 54 people that are currently on admission at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. At the scene of at the spot, 29 people were pronounced dead. They were picked from the various trappings in the vehicle. The fire service had to come in, cut the various metals to retrieve their bodies from there. So 29 is sent here. And then when they go to the hospital, 5 more people have been pronounced dead. They are now at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital morgue. Doctors are attending to those who are in critical condition. Some who sustained minor injuries have been treated and discharged. At the scene, I spoke with the Elmina Divisional Police Commander, DSP Superintendent Samuel Entia Annan, and he was part of the people that carried on with the rescue mission this morning.
And the letter we gathered was they had a head-on collision at this very spot around 12:15 a.m. today.
They give you details of how it happened, who was doing what and all of that?
We gathered one was overtaken, the red one. The one lying just behind was overtaken. And unfortunately, this one, the white one, also appeared from Takrady direction. And they couldn't complete overtaking, and they had a head-on collision. So far, we rescued 29 dead, 13 females and 16 males, together with one child of about 1 year. Yes, this one I can confirm that we rescued them trapped in the vehicle dead. We sent many of them to the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. For those ones, I cannot actually give any figure because it was in the night and we arrived to at least save as many as we could. The driver, the one in charge, this one he died in the crash. The other one we cannot tell because we rescued almost all of them. Some dead, some alive, and we couldn't tell whether he was among the dead or the alive ones.
Now, Richard, you've also been speaking to the Road Safety Commission. What have they been saying?
Well, they've blamed this accident, their preliminary findings, they've blamed it on poor visibility. They say that from the Accra, Cape Coast, Takoradi stretch, there are no street lights, and it might have accounted for this accident that happened. And so they are going to work around the clock to ensure that they have some street light on the stretch.
Feels like a nightmare. I'm yet to wake up from the figures. It's not good. It's a huge responsibility. We are not going to relent. We are still going to educate the drivers on best road use possible. We are not going to relent, like I said. We are hoping this is the worst and it will never happen like this. Even if there's a crash, there shouldn't be any injuries. Not to talk of 29 dead on the spot. We deserve better as a region, we deserve better as a country, and we are only hoping for the best use.
This very spot is an accident-prone area. This is not the first time this thing has happened. I mean, what do you make of?
For now, we cannot attribute it to any causative factors, but considering the time of the crash, we can relate it to a bit of bad weather or poor visibility, because as we can see, we don't have any street lighting on the stretch. So for now, we can attribute it to visibility, but of course, investigations are still ongoing. We'll try to find a best solution to this very problem.
Now, Richard, briefly, just before I let you off, earlier we're talking about relatives rushing to the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital to identify those who were involved in the accident to see if their relatives were involved. Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, so the relatives are still trickling in their numbers to the morgue. They first visit the Accident and Emergency Center here at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital to find out if their relatives are part of the living or are part of the dead. One sad thing that happened was a small girl, about 6 years. She woke up and then was looking for the father and the mother. Apparently, she might have been traveling on that stretch with the mother and the father. So now the hospital authorities cannot or are unable to tell whether her parents are part of the people that are in the morgue or are part of the living, because they are still carrying out with the treatment of these people.
Thank you very much. That's Central Region correspondent Richard Kojunyako reporting about that accident at Dampoase this dawn on the Elmina Commander Road. 34 persons so far dead, we're told. We're still following that, and we'll bring you more as and when we pick more information on this. You're still listening to the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. On to some other stories now. Joy News is learning founder of the defunct UT Bank, Prince Kofi Amoabeng, has been arrested and is being processed for court in connection with the banking sector crisis. Kofi Amoabeng's UT Bank and Capital Bank were closed down in 2017 by the Bank of Ghana for being deeply insolvent. According to the regulator, their liabilities exceeded their assets and making them unable to meet their obligations. The bank at the time said despite repeated agreement between the Bank of Ghana and UT Bank and Capital Bank to implement an action plan to address these significant shortfalls, the owners and managers of UT Bank and Capital Bank were unable to increase the capital of the banks to address this insolvency. We'll bring you details of Mr. Amoabeng's arrest shortly, but first, President Akufo-Addo has been speaking on this matter a while ago when he addressed participants at a New Year school at the University of Ghana.
We have begun bringing those responsible for the banking crisis to justice. We have one case in court, and if prima facie evidence of criminality is found in the other ongoing investigations, which according to my information is likely, then the perpetrators of the crisis, i.e. both regulators and individuals, will face justice soon. We had to take painful but necessary measures to sanitize and save the banking system. In effect, 12.58 billion Ghana cedis of public funds was injected into the 9 banks and many microfinance institutions following their malfunction. It is worthy to note, however, that the jobs of some 6,500 workers were saved as a result, instead of the 10,000 that could have been lost, in addition to the protection of funds of 4.6 million depositors. We have also ensured the creation of a strong set of indigenous banks. The latest banking sector report of the Bank of Ghana reveals that as of October 2019, the banks posted a profit of 2.9 billion cedis, representing a 45% increase over that of 2018, as the reforms initiated by the central bank begin to take effect.
Presidential Affairs correspondent Elton John Brobe is at the New Year's call, where the president has been speaking about the banking sector crisis and the prosecutions in the offing. Elton joins us on the line. Elton, so we know that UT Bank founder Prince Kofi Amuabing has been arrested, but in the president's speech, did he give a hint of who else we should expect?
Well, he was not direct on who government is seeking to prosecute, but it was quite clear that what government has started will bring some sanity to the financial sector, and never again will the country experience what it went through. That resulted in the closure of some indigenous banks and some savings and loan companies.
Now, we understand the former council chairman of the university, Ishmael Yamson, has also been speaking about this. What has he been saying?
So for him, the impact of the banking sector crisis is just about hitting the country, but the country can avert this if confidence is restored in the banking sector. For him, the meltdown is such that it may have a severe impact on the country going forward. For him, government must come clear on how much it is spending to pay back depositors' money. And then secondly, and most importantly, those whose negligence led to the collapse of these banks must be made to pay back the money, and also must be made to must go through some kind of punishment. For him, it is only in these circumstances that confidence can be restored in the banking sector, because for him, as a key player in the private sector, many people are just not happy going to deposit their money in the bank because of fear that tomorrow such banks may go under.
Poor management of the economy, poor and often reckless fiscal management, excessive borrowing and over-dependence on ODA, external influence over direction of economic policy, a corrupted democratic system of government, pervasive, deep and structured corruption, and destruction of the Ghanaian values of discipline and personal integrity. But perhaps, of all the above issues, the two that give me greatest concern are the way we practice democracy in Ghana and corruption.
That's the former council chairman of the University of Ghana, Ishmael Yamson. They're speaking at the New Year's call. And we've just told you that founder of UT Bank, Prince Kofi Amuabing, has been arrested and is being processed for court in connection with the banking sector crisis. We'll head to the court shortly, where my colleague Kwesi Parker Wilson will join us. But business editor George Wiafe joins us in the studio. So, George, take us back to 2017 and the BOG's decision to shut down UT Bank together with Capital Bank, where we've come from up until now.
In terms of the main reason, at then the Bank of Ghana told us that there were some regulatory breaches and also some liquidity problems. Now, take the issues a little bit back, and you realize that in 2015 there was an asset liquidity report that was put together by the Bank of Ghana, support from the IMF, and the bank was identified as having some liquidity problems. The Bank of Ghana then argued that they have failed to meet certain regulatory requirements. And if you go deep into the banking law, when you fail to meet these regulatory requirements in terms of liquidity issues and all the rest, the Bank of Ghana has to give you a period to try and resolve those issues and address it. If you fail to address those issues, then they have to move in and then activate or go according to what their regulations are saying. And UT Bank and then Capital Bank were some of the banks that were initially identified that they have breached those rules in terms of being able to meet those regulatory requirements in terms of the level of liquidity that they should have to operate as a commercial bank. And that is why then they stepped in to take the action against these two banks, that is UT and then Capital Bank.
Well, you had the opportunity to interact with Prince Kofi Amuabing, for instance, after the closure of UT Bank. You got a sense of what when you spoke to him?
Well, And then when a colleague of mine spoke to me, even been interacting with him, he still has issues with how the process was carried out. And he thought that his shoes should have been given some opportunity to correct those problems, even arguing that there were processes to try and recapitalize the bank and improve his liquidity position. And if he was given a little bit of time, this action was not necessary at all to take. And he was even raising questions about the approach the regulator, the Bank of Ghana, adopted in taking this action to try and withdraw his license to operate as a universal bank in the country.
Well, he's been arrested now and being processed for court. My colleague, Parker Wilson, is following that and joins us on the line. So, Parker, what have you gathered?
Right, so if I can confirm to you that Prince Kofi Amobin is here at the Circuit Court 4 this afternoon, and he's hanging out with a few friends. In fact, the judge just entered the courtroom, and so very soon the case will be called, and we'll get to find out why he's been summoned here this very afternoon. But my sources within his camp tells me that this morning he was picked up at his office, and since the closure of the UT Bank, he's been under investigation for quite some time now. And so this morning they got an information that he was supposed to appear before court for further interrogation, and so he's here this afternoon just to do that. So we'll monitor the court proceedings, and whatever that happens, we'll let our listeners know.
That's my colleague Kwesi Parker Wilson following that issue in court. Prince Kofi Amobin has been arrested and is being processed for court, and you heard my colleague, he's currently in the court. Court is yet to get into session, and as and when it does, we will know what he's being charged with. This is the Midday News here on Joy 99.7 FM. Of course, there will be updates also on my Joy Online and also all our social media platforms. You can catch that. Let's head on to some other stories. Shops of foreign traders operating around the Kwame Nkrumah Circle will remain under lock and key. That's the warning from the Ghana Union of Traders Association, GUTA, after some owners failed to produce documents in the verification and assessment exercise being carried out by the Ghana Revenue Authority today. The over 200 foreigners, mostly Nigerians, who have gathered at the venue say they were not aware of such an exercise and do not have any documents to show. The documents to be presented for assessment includes the name of the company, year it was established, phone numbers, monthly or weekly income, GPS address, and TIN. Joseph Osei Yao Ajiman is the Deputy Public Relations Officer for GUTA.
The committee agreed that we come here for 3 days, and this is the first day. We've served notice. We've made announcements. As you can see, there are notices on their shops. And so now they can't tell us that we haven't informed them. We are also set. All the agencies are here. The chairs are here. The tables are here. And they are standing around. They have to come and sit down so that we go through their papers. If their papers are right, we just open the shops for them. But if they don't come for us to vet them, how would we know that they have papers that they should operate in Ghana? At least they should come and let us vet their papers. If the papers are right, we open their shops for them. And that's it.
So don't you think it's because they do not have any documents to show, that's why they are doing this?
I don't want to preempt that. If they have documents, they should come and sit down. If they don't have documents or they have documents and they don't want to sit down, then it's left to them.
Right. So until they produce the documents, you're not going to open the shops for them?
Of course, they have to come through the committee. Yeah. Then we see if we have to open the shops for them, then we open. So if you don't come and bring your documents, how do we open for you?
My colleague Ifwa Evans Chinri is at the tiptoe lane where the exercise is ongoing and joins us with the latest. Ifwa, what's the situation now?
Confusion, anxiety, anger, the look on the faces of over 200 foreign traders gathered here at the Soldier Bar at Circle. These traders say they do not understand why they are still being treated unfairly. They have to provide documents which will allow them continue doing business in the country, but it looks like they do not have anything to show, as they are seen in groups chit-chatting, whilst officials of the GRA, the GIPC, the Ghana Immigration Service, members of GUTA sit around the tables doing nothing. Only one of these foreigners have been able to provide his documents, but it did not meet the requirements laid out by officials. The officials actually promised to leave soon if the traders are not ready to produce their documents. The foreigners say they will not speak until some of their leaders show up at the scene. So until that happens, we're still here waiting to find out what else happens here at the Soldier Bar.
Now, Ifwa, we also understand that after assessing the documents, the GRA officials do a follow-up to the shops. Tell us a bit about it.
Yes, when I got here, I got closer to one of the officials from the TRA and asked him what else. After they assessed the document, what else they'll do, and they said that they'll follow up to the shops to check invoices, their income, how much they earn, and all that. So they say that it's something they do. So after assessing documents, they have to do that before you are allowed to do business.
My colleague Ifwa Evans Chinwe at the Tiptoe Lane, where the exercise is currently ongoing, and she'll tell us more later in subsequent bulletins. Now let's head to the Ashanti region, because 15 rooms, including a shrine, has been destroyed in a fire outbreak at Angloga in Kumasi. The fire incident, which occurred early this morning, started from the explosion of a cylinder being used by a woman in the compound house. Now eyewitnesses say they had 2 different explosions from the house, which resulted in that worrying incident. Prince Apia has been following us, and he'll tell us more. Prince, what's the latest?
So what is happening now is that the residents here at Gariba Road are very worried. Most of them are saying they might not use cylinders in cooking anymore because of what has happened this morning. I should also say that the house in which the 8 rooms actually got burnt out of the 15, the KNUST fire station, together with the regional fire station, were able to combine to douse the flame. I should say that as I speak to you, though the shrine has been burnt, the owner of the house is happy that the gods were not affected by the shrine.
A shrine being burnt. Interesting. Now, back here in Accra, operators of a gas filling station on a parcel of land at Kaokudi, earmarked for the construction of a multi-purpose office complex, have been given 5 days to dislodge gas from a tank to allow for demolition of the structures. The Go gas station, a block factory, a washing bay, and over 100 structures were razed down in Tuesday morning's clear-up, displacing over 100 persons. The squatters and occupants of the various structures, including eateries and drinking spots, say they have nowhere to go. The accused municipal assembly authorities of high-handedness in the manner the exercise was conducted.
They come, the 3 a.m., we are sleeping, we don't know, maybe something like this. They come and they destroy our dress, everything, we don't take anything. We are just standing like that.
Okay, so where will you sleep tonight?
Now, unless God, we don't know.
How many years?
In fact, me wa ha che. Me wa ha me kuru kura wa tu kran kran wa fiesi ni. Aha na me krom aduane me ya me boa mpanyifo bebre na do. Bia na me o mu nyina ha no moto aduane. So just kura dem kan fofo nyina ha no moto aduane. Ati me do be 3 o'clock. Drive na beba me kunu. O se me nhwa caterpillar na ba ba gina ho. Enti me na me pie ya me bo obi apono so obi ampie no mpaki nyam.
But municipal assembly authorities deny the claims. They tell Joy News Tuesday's demolition was as a result of 2 years of engagement with the occupants. Abdullah Rahman is municipal engineer.
Since August 2018 that we started giving out letters to them.
It appears, they were still defiant. They're still sitting on the land until today's exercise.
Yes, they thought it would not happen. There was a court injunction that too brought the delayance.
I see a gas filling station here, the Go gas filling station. It's also going to be affected by this.
We are waiting for ECG for them to disconnect the power so that we can demolish the other structures. But we are not going to touch the pipes that for the gas.
Were they just supposed to pack their things and leave here?
Simple.
And that's the situation from the Ayawaso area. We'll take a quick break here on the Midday News. When we return, health practitioners push NHIS for cost absorption for cervical cancer treatment, as sufferers say charges for treatment remain high, despite NHIA listing the ailment as one of the 2 cancers covered by the scheme.
If you look at the cost, it actually would make more sense to prevent people from getting the advanced form and eventually dying.
UMB was established in 1972 as the premier bank for the corporate and private sector in Ghana. From our very beginning, as the only Ghanaian bank serving all categories of businesses, we set a standard for excellence and innovation over the past 45 years. We've built a financially healthy and strong bank, demonstrated our commitment to our customers and to growing businesses, and exhibited originality and innovation at every turn. At UMB, our focus is built around people, service, products and technology, These are the key to our present success and our future triumphs. At UMB, we're poised to make a difference not only with our customers, but also in the banking industry. We invite you to share in our future. Our future starts now with you.
Thanks for staying with us here on the Midday News. Time now for sports. Hans Mensando has the latest.
And CK Akono will become the new coach of Ghana's senior national team, the Black Stars. Yes, you heard right.
I'm shocked.
Akono has stepped up from his role as assistant coach of the team following the departure of James Kwesi Appiah early this month. Appiah's contract was not renewed after 2.5 years of being in charge. Now, Joy Sports can reveal that government insisted on having a local coach in charge of the team, and Akono emerged as the best option.
Out of how many options?
Well, we don't know.
Okay.
That's your sports.
Thank you very much, Hans. Now, doctors treating cervical cancer patients in the country's health facilities are pushing for the cost of treatment to be fully absorbed under the NHIS. Many sufferers who spoke to Joy News' Seth Kwame Boateng in his latest hotline documentary, Cervix in Crisis, raised concern about the high cost of treatment. The NPP listed cervical cancer as one of its top priorities under the health segment of its 2016 election manifesto and promised to make its treatment free. But even though the NHI has captured treatment under the scheme, many aspects of the treatment are not covered, making it difficult for sufferers. Consultant obstetric gynecologist at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Titus Bayu, has been speaking about cost of treatment on the Super Morning Show.
If we just change our policy and decide that as a country, we think that from today, if the president or anybody takes that decision that we do not want anybody to die from this again, or the NHIA decides that no one should suffer from this in this manner again, so henceforth we are screening the entire nation, it will be done. If you look at the cost, it actually would make more sense to prevent people from getting the advanced form and eventually dying, even to the NHIS, than if we screen them. But as it is now, we are not doing that. And we wait for them to get the worst form of it, come and lie in hospital, and the disease don't kill them that rapidly. It gives about 10 to 15 years of waiting period. We eventually even get into the advanced form, and you can attest to it. You can go through treatment for months, and eventually they end up dying.
Now, head of Health Desk, Fred Smith, joins me in studio with details on this. So, Fred, tell us exactly what the manifesto says about cervical cancer treatment.
I read that verbatim. It says, recognizing the increasing incidence of cancers, and they list those cancers: childhood cancers, breast cancer, cervical cancer, prostate, and other cancers as a national problem. They will establish centers at all levels of our healthcare delivery system for screening, diagnosis, early detection, and prevention of these cancers, paid for under the restructured and revitalized NHIS.
We are in 2020. What's the situation on the ground?
Well, if you subscribed to the NHIS today, you would be given a subscriber's handbook, which will indicate, among others, coverage of cervical cancer treatment. But on the ground, many sufferers say they are still being charged for screening and other aspects of the treatment, and you heard some of them in that documentary by Seth Kwame Boateng. The Ghana Health Service says, depending on the patient's situation, they may get some aspect of the treatment covered. In the regions, it appears some health facilities are exercising discretion, as some say they cover up to the point of radiography and chemotherapy.
That's head of Health Desk here at Joy News, Fred Smith. And as the multimedia group rolls out a series of activities to mark 25 years of excellent broadcasting, listeners, workers, and clients have been sharing their joy stories. Listen to Medical Director of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Ramona Enyonam Dako, who's been a loyal listener of Joy FM throughout the entire life of the company.
I'm Ramona Enyonam Dako. From day one, 25 years ago, my dial is always on Joy FM. I've never made any phone call, but I listen to your program and I listen to it. I love everybody. Remonakwa is my body. Some people were my body, but they are no more there. And those who are dead, may their soul rest in peace. I love Joy FM 99.7.
We're waiting to hear your joy stories as well. And there's a lot of congratulatory messages coming in already. We've received one or two from Media General wishing us a happy 25th anniversary, the multimedia group, from all of us at Media General. And of course, we've received one also from the EIB network. Keep it coming. We are celebrating 25 years. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. I am Emefa Apawu. Thanks so much for your company. Dr. Mensa Otabil is up next with Living Word.